Hi, it's Mitch from Pickdawgz.com here with the free pick in the George Washington versus George Mason college basketball matchup on Monday, January 15th, 2024. Of course, if you like all the free picks we give out at Pickdawgz, you'll love our premium picks, our best bets. Use the discount code PICK for 15% off. We also have Dime Club and Sharp Trading Plays. These are meant for people who make big bets. Of course, if that's you, go ahead and text that number that you see on the screen. But let's get to this one. George Washington taking on George Mason. It is A10 college basketball action. Both these teams pretty good. Fly under the radar because they're not the Kansases and Dukes of the world. And of course, they play in the A10, which is one of those conferences that generally is a multiple bid conference in the NCAA tournament. With all the shifting around of teams that happens over the years, maybe a little bit less so than it used to be just a few years ago. But it's one of those conferences that if there are more than one or two teams, more than a team or two that excels, the committee certainly allows them into the tournament. It's not like some of these places like the MAC or something where it's always going to be one bid no matter what, even if there's two teams, that have one loss each going into their conference tournament. The thing is that, George Washington 8-2 straight up in their last 10. George Mason 8-3 straight up in their last 10. Decent road team as well. And of course, George Washington 10-1 straight up at home, but just 5-1 against the number. These teams, of course, play every year, and they just seem to split a lot of these games, with the road team actually winning both the games last year. So, kind of the opposite effect. When we look at George Washington in their recent play, they have won a lot of games recently, 7 of their last 8. The only loss coming at home against Fordham, and they're coming off a nice win over Davidson last time out. They also won at VCU. Their last time they lost was was Fordham, and then prior to that, their loss was at South Carolina. We know the Gamecocks are a pretty good team this year, shocking some teams in that SEC. Meanwhile, when we look at George Mason, back-to-back losses here in the A10, losing against VCU at home and at Richmond. But this team is still pretty strong. We've seen them play pretty well in some spots, of course, not so well in other spots like at Tennessee. We look at George Mason, their ability to shoot the three at 35.9%, and then, and up against a team here that does not defend the three all that well, kind of middle of the pack for G-Dub, but G-Dub can also shoot the three at an alarming rate, and they shoot really, really well from the floor. But George Mason's defense overall is pretty good, but not from the perimeter. They just do not shoot all that well from out there. I think when we look at the rebounding, that's where George Mason really has the big edge in this one. And this is one of those tough games that's tough to call. It's one of the tougher games on the board, and probably not one I'm going to rush to the window because there's so many different angles here. But I think George Washington at home, that's going to be my play and my free pick. Of course, while you're doing your picks, putting your bets in, use our free betting tools at sportschatplace.com. They're 100% free, and they'll help put you on the most favorable bets on the board today.